52858. We mentioned yesterday, instead of writing a metaphor poem yourself, that you're only asked to develop 3 of your metaphors, you're asked to try to develop them a little bit more creatively or descriptively. So like whatever the metaphor was, I am a lake. But then you could add in, I'm the rust, color, and taste from the granite underneath this Ottawa, Ontario lake or something like that. So there's an open, quick question there. You can either add your metaphors, write one, press enter, write another, press enter, write your third one, press enter, or you can write 1, 2, 3 in the same box and then press enter. So that's your choice. And it's anonymous. It'll show up without an author, a name. And that way we'll just be able to compare and look at who was able to develop some of the more interesting metaphors. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So you'll see here, there's no names, it's anonymous. There's a couple in there already, so I'll hide them for now. And if you've got that, I will direct you to the homework blog, actually, to grab a link to join me into a document together. So if you've entered them, you could go on to the A30 page. Right, we have a page, A30. And I've added a link called Writing Practice. Let's start with this, okay? Brap is such an interesting word, right? Brap. Didn't that come up last year? It's an example of onomatopoeia, right? It's not really a word, is it? But it's a word that it replicates the sound it makes.
Yep.
Brap. Zing!
Wasn't that what we were doing last year at the end?
Somehow. I can't remember how it was incorporated, but yeah.
What are we going into on the...
I'll wait so that people don't get too ahead of themselves, and then we'll just have a look at this, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, you can have a look at some of the ones that people are sharing here. If I hide names, that goes away. I'm like Diefenbaker on August Long Weekend. I'm Tim Hortons after a hockey game. I'm the bright northern lights, so that's good. I am a clear and starry night. Again, these are all examples of things that can't literally be true, which makes them the metaphor, right? Saying that you are these, things, hockey or a weekend, things like that. I'm the crisp cut of hockey blades and the cold arena ice. So that's where there's some descriptive elements that are added. It elevates it just a little bit, right? I'm the fresh air at the mountaintops in Banff. I'm the fresh mountain runoff in Lake Diefenbaker. This one here has some more kind of personality to it. I'm a diesel truck rolling coal, so you got some slang there. Down an old highway. I'm a dirt bike pounding the rev limiter, I guess. Is that how it goes? Ripping across an open field. I wonder. I am a snowmobile brapping while popping tree road drifts, right? Like, interesting. You've even got some almost alliteration there, tree row. So some tree road drifts. You've got consonants in there too. I'm the burn on your tongue from Fresh Tim's coffee. I'm 40 below with little snow. I'm 40 below with little snow. I'm seeing for miles with only fields in sight. I think that's one. You know, I'm the Saskatchewan Service Corps. That's a very specific thing that not a lot of people may have picked. I'm a hike in a northern park. I'm the cold, freezing prairies. I'm the warm foods. So yes, those are all metaphors. I'm the bright northern lights, all metaphors. But again, here, this initial one that came in, I'm a long car ride through flat prairie land and rolling hills on the highway. There's a lot of description to that. So which is more interesting to read, right? I am maple syrup soaked into fresh pressed pancakes hot off the burner. Like, you guys have the alliteration and the consonants here. Pressed pancakes, hot off. You've got the alliteration or assonance there even. I'm wet socks soaked from all the deep snow that's found its way into my boots. I'm Tim Hortons before a hockey game on a cold winter night. I'm spending hours just to get to another province. So here's an example where we have one that's not a correct example of a metaphor. And again, this is anonymous. So unless you disclose to us, reveal who you are, this one here isn't a metaphor. Because this can be. You can spend hours just to get to another province. But you could say, instead, you could say something like, I'm the empty gas tank running on hours to get to another province, or something like that. You have to word it in a way that cannot be. I am the dancing prairie skies, which is true. I am getting an ice cap from Tim's in winter, and here's another one where that can't be the case, because you can go get an ice cap. So what is a metaphor and what is not a metaphor? Share it anonymously. We've just, out of all of the ones that you shared here, there's only a couple that just aren't on the right track. But well done. So here's where I want to kind of take a step back from what we were trying yesterday. I gave you the challenge that I'd like to develop some of the writing skills here. And we started with just write a body paragraph. And there were 2 essay topics that you could develop it. And you were going to use I Am Canadian, the text that we just finished reading. I wondered if that was maybe a little too much just to start off with here. So I'm going to take a step back, and you guys know what scaffolding is. You know, you do things in steps. We're going to just take it down a step. And so I have added a Google Doc. And so if you, again, go to, on my homework blog, go to the A30 page over on the right-hand side. So you can leave Socrative if you've shared your metaphors there. So the A30 page, you might reference this as we go through the course because it has different videos included or links to student samples of assignments and that kind of stuff, right? So you might end up using it. There's also, a link here you can think about what Canadian text you might choose to read. On our back wall of books, the Canadian texts are the ones in the middle column. So above where the stapler is, you've got those 2 shelves are all Canadian content, some fiction and some nonfiction stuff there. But if you go to the A1 section, I've added this link here, writing practice. Wednesday, this is different than our Google Doc yesterday. It's in chart form, so if you click that, you can join here. And it's shared anonymously, so yeah, this is where you're in the same document together. That's different than yesterday where you each made a copy of the document to use yourself. And so we'll see all you anonymous animals as you join. Anonymous Amarillo. Okay, here's how I've broken it down. Instead of writing 7 sentences of an analytical paragraph, I just want you to write 3 sentences. And all I want you to do is, I've got a essay question at the front here. Let me just snip it. The essay question here is to analyze the perspectives of Canadian identity from Canadian authors. So you're going to use Duke Redberg's poem, I Am Canadian, and you're going to make some kind of observation about what Duke Redberg thinks is the Canadian identity based on what he wrote, okay? So I wrote it out this way for you. What do you think their message is about what the Canadian identity is? That's what you would write here in this first column. The second one is where you would give your reference support. You would pull a quote or a short phrase from the writing. You'd integrate it into your sentence as your proof of what you think the author is saying about the Canadian identity. Okay? That would be your sentence number 4 with your reference. And then the only other one I want you to do would be your sentence 5 of our analytical writing. Just explain how the reference you picked proves the point you think the author is trying to make through the text. Does that break it down in a kind of simple way? My example here is, so my example, I took it from, if you guys recall in our handout, there were the reasons to fear Canada in our kind of memes, jokes list. You know, 90% of the population is massed within 100 miles of the North American border, that one. And I picked a phrase he said that we're just below the cultural radar, yet we never quite disappear. So as an example, I picked that. So what do I think this author has to say about the Canadian identity? I said, writer Sean Carman playfully assembles characteristics that he thinks other countries think of Canadians, particularly Americans, knowing that Canadians do not take the topic too seriously. So I'm reading from this. I'm making an observation of his writing that I think he's saying the Canadian identity is one that we don't take too seriously. It exists, but we're not too concerned about it like other countries are. That's my observation of what I think the author is doing with his text as an example. My proof of it, I said in his list, he mentions Canadian culture is, quote, just below the cultural radar, end quote, meaning it exists, but it is almost unnoticeable. So that's the proof I'm giving of why I think he believes the Canadian identity isn't really a big deal, okay? And then to explain my quote, or my choice of the quote, I said, compared to other countries with stronger and older identities, he infers, or he hints, that Canadian identity is still one that many citizens are trying to clarify, but know it exists, and that's enough for most. So my explanation is that he's making the claim, I think he's making the claim, Canadian identity is there, but Canadians don't take it too seriously. Okay? That's my breakdown of sentence 3, 4, and 5, which I think is what some people struggle with. Because if you can get more comfortable and confident with developing your point, your proof, and explanation of the proof you chose, you can work around it by introducing your paragraph and concluding your paragraph, right? So I have letters here. It goes down to 18. Someone's claimed 18, which is great. I did this so everybody has a space. You're not jumping into somebody else's space unless you're intending to be a jerk, which I don't think anyone's gonna, someone's, okay? So pick a space, and you could, if you want, we're mostly using Duke Redberg's poem, so I want you to think about it. If the question is, what do you think Duke Redberg's explanation is of the Canadian identity based on the poem he wrote? You'd fill it in column 1. Duke Redberg writes that the Canadian identity is blah, whatever. In column 2, you use the portion of his poem that you think proves your observation. And column 3 is explaining how that observation, how that selection of the text proves the point you think he's trying to make. Okay? Okay. Start with that. Oh, there's that Nyan cat again. So weird.
Oh, I closed it.
Okay. Well, we'll all know who Brody is when he rejoins the group.
So we just pick like
Pick a column that you don't see, column E, or sorry, row E looks available, row A looks available, row M is untouched.
but like are we like choosing like a part of like
Identity.
You'll pick your own part of the poem, but it can overlap with what somebody else picks, that's fine.
191.
So in the first column, you make a statement about what you think the author believes the Canadian identity is about. Sorry, I just saw that Luke was just sitting back enjoying whatever he was reading. So there had to be something.
well somebody puts up literally wrote something.
I know, I see it.
Daddy.
Okay.
Mine's not loading at all. Like
Oh.
Mine's really
Would it help if you reopened your browser?
I just copy pasted what I wrote yesterday. My own thing. Yeah, that's true.
And does it work with what I've asked? It could.
It's pretty close. I'll have to change it.
Okay. You might want to have your poem out, right? Like looking at the poem, I am Canadian, consider from what he's written, what do I believe he thinks is the Canadian identity?
What you think he thinks.
Yep, this is your observation of a writer's work. You can only assume what you believe that they're
So we can't
doing.
be wrong.
I don't know what
If you can't support it, if the text doesn't support your observation, then you're wrong. But this is your last semester of ELA,
Yeah, I
You can
know.
almost always guarantee that you're correct if you're on track.
I have an idea, but I don't know if it's like.
You want to say it out loud?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because again, this is the difficult part of assembling a thought in your head, but then translating it to paper or typing it out. Okay,
So like, Canada's not really always one thing.
yes. Canadian identity is not one thing, it is the many things, right? And you could take that even further, that it doesn't have to be fully experienced by all people to still be Canadian, right?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Right. So now you have to translate that into words one after another. Okay. So I'm going to start giving some feedback to people, okay? Here as an example. Oops. I'll just remind you, you're trying to talk about what he thinks the Canadian identity is about. So that observation, your belief of what you think Redberg thinks the Canadian identity is, that needs to be in column 1. From what he's written in the poem, Redberg believes the Canadian identity is made up of something. That's how you might begin that sentence. So if, for example, your first column sentence is only about the writing, the metaphors, that kind of stuff, that's an off-topic beginning. What do you see from the poem that Redberg believes is the Canadian identity, makes up the Canadian identity?
Oh, putting that on my phone.
I actually didn't know that. I was waiting for something to say. Oh, I actually didn't.
Get out of my.
It messed with my computer, like I can't like scroll.
Yeah.
Same.
And like
I can't scroll in. Where's you and that?
Is that Jackson again?
Yeah.
That's number 1 this year?
Are we counting my sneezes?
We were last semester.
How many
It's almost
seasons
on a daily
were last
basis.
year?
Yeah, but easily, you believe it.
It's the worst. Yeah, especially when
I
you're sick.
don't get that.
No, like, no, if you're sick and you hold it, it's just like an
I don't hold
explosion. You hold it.
Imagine Connor
Oh,
not
Connor.
living right now.
You know what, guys?
This guy, he has stop like that in his face.
He's like, you know we're done. Guys, I'm not ready to.
But they're ready to call it.
Okay.
But all those descriptions.
There's two R2
Wonder
Yeah, there's one on G, and then there's one down on R.
how do you name it?
What's happening on G and what?
You're there twice.
Oh, I'm in.
Oh, because I'm on a
laptop on a computer.
Oh.
My laptop's doing something strange, but I'm in and giving feedback to people. So remember, here's some things to remind yourselves of. Try to write in present tense. Not that the author believed, but he believes. You're reading it today, it's still what he believes, right? The author was something, he is. So write in present tense. There is, it's kind of, do you guys know like the blue screen of death with computers?
Oh.
There is kind of a blue screen of death when you're writing in English. And it is the word, I think that, and it just don't. Because, and whoever, someone did use this, but really, if you write around that phrase, if you need to write, I think that blah, 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 whatever, that's fine, except when you remove it, this sentence and what follows is the sentence. This is unnecessary. It's also not appropriate, but unnecessary. So if you need to write that to get your ideas out, fine, but you could use your find and replace later to double check that stuff. Right? No I in your writing. You're writing third person.
And also no I in T.
There's a me.
No I in what?
Whoever's trying to do the question mark, it's shift 6.
So something's happening in our document, it sounds like, right?
What's that do?
You gotta change it from whichever language it is, probably French to English.
Oh, I see somebody's, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't put a quote- I can't put
a talking thing. It's shift 6.
A quotation mark?
I think French.
Yeah.
No,
I call him 66 is
no, I can't
99.
put like the, what are they called around the dot?
Quotation marks.
Yeah, I can't put one of those. And
Yeah.
it's not 6. Did I say?
So I don't know what's going on because I also can't scroll. Did you guys say you can't scroll?
I can't put it on my computer.
I can't remember which one's what. Wait,
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there.
No, I can't read. That's me. How do I put the quotations? Give me a. My keyboard's
Oh,
in
but
French.
Easier.
Well, switch it then.
I don't know how.
Basically, how's your keyboard in French? There's literally letters.
Don't you go down to the bottom here where it says ing?
Wait, so can we only have one line?
Are you asking if you can only have, okay, oh, here's another thing.
Wrong.
Here's another thing with quoting poetry, for example. So Sierra asked the question, can you quote more than one line? Or sometimes a line carries over in the poem, right? And so in the poem, if, for example, the line is like this, or whatever, and you want to use this portion of it that carries over a line, if you're being careful with how you're doing this, when you use it in your reference to show that it was the end of a line, that there's actually a break in the line, does anybody know what you include? You put a dash, like a backslash, and then this, and that ends it. This tells the reader that it goes across 2 lines. That's proper quotation of poetry, okay?
So my keyboard layout says it's standard, but I still not allowed to put.
I don't think it's a standard thing. It should be like a US keyboard versus a Canada thing, isn't it?
Is if you just go into language and settings,
Yeah.
you can change your keyboard. Language settings? Yeah. So what am I supposed to have my keyboard as?
It should be English, American.
Yeah.
Yeah. English Canadian includes those agoutés and the French symbols.
English.
Yeah.
You can type bonjour.
Delicioso.
Risotto.
Okay.
So how do you do the thing where you replace a word from the reference you're using? You put
Oh, if you're gonna remove a word from a line?
yeah, I want to put the instead of I.
Oh, so if you're replacing or changing a word, or you're changing the, if it's plural and you're making it singular, you use the square brackets
Can it
around.
be the first word?
It cannot be the first word of the reference. So what you do is you just have your, wherever it is here, if this is your reference, like word, whatever, and you would want to change this word, just move your reference to the next one.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
if I want to put this like I'm a wheat field thing.
yes.
So do I just start it at a wheat field?
So are you trying to say that he makes the claim that he is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could do.
Like I don't need to start. I don't need to say the full line.
It doesn't have to include the I'm, but you could say he repeats the idea by stating, and then quote, I'm a wheat field, like that. Whatever, right? If you add the word that it's his expression or his writing, and then you can include the I because you've identified that the author is the I, right? You're doing something that's a bit more challenging, because if you didn't say that it was the author that is the I, the reader, I would assume that Aisley is the I, but we know that's not the case because you said it's the author that is the speaker. Yeah.
Is your keyboard still funny?
I got it now.
Okay.
Great.
Just so you know, there's a little thing in the right hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on it, it should say ENG.
Mm-hmm.
Click on it, you can easily access the other languages. If that ever happens.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I understand.
Maybe picking the last row was a mistake, because mine keeps getting cut in half
And moved on to the other
And
page?
you always want to pick the higher one, because the more they go down, the more words they go down.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting pushed away by launch time.
That's
hilarious.
You could ask whoever's in row R to give you some extra soft enters
Narrow R.
to get on the other page.
Who's in row R?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to give it away. It's anonymous.
D did that to me, and I was so thankful, and then all of a sudden I touched something and was pressing backspace.
Mm-hmm. So here's a check. Whatever you're currently writing, here's the reminder. Is the message about Duke Redberg's belief of the Canadian identity? This is just the reminder that that's what you're supposed to be focusing on. Sometimes as we continue to write, we lose track of what our goal is and what we're writing about. So check yourself. Are you writing about what Duke Redberg's belief of the Canadian identity is? Yes? Of the poem? Yep, you just have to include the backslash between them.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Pardon?
How do you cite a line?
For this, we don't. We just say that it, we would include in either sentence maybe 2, Duke Redbrook's poem, I Am Canadian. That's all we would need. If we were using something more specific, or you're citing for like a literary paper for university English, then you could number your lines. We're not going to do that here. It's not necessary.
So just a quotation instead?
It's just the quotation, yeah. And we'll assume that in our sentence 1, 2, we would have introduced author and text title, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that these 3 sentences in our analyzing paragraphs are the most complicated. So this is what we're practicing. We're kind of removing the rest and focusing on what is the most complicated. Okay, 1 or 2 people are finished here. So I think that's great, and I'm not going to really wait for other people to catch up. You can go further down in the document, and there is our second essay prompt down there for you. The second one was to try to write the observation, the proof, and the explanation of the proof for an author's style of writing using Duke Redberg, or you could use the Reasons to Fear Canada. Okay, and you try to do the same thing.
I don't understand what the second question is asking.
Yep, the second column or the second essay?
Second essay.
Oh,
Are we
okay.
supposed to start that?
Yes, you can, yeah, just 1 second here. Thanks. The bottom of the 2 paragraph options, we talked about this idea of writing style. That his, I am Canadian, it has a very distinct style compared to, any of the other poems. If you recall last year, you guys picked out a variety of poems. He uses the repetition, but not in an overly monotonous way. He does the east to west, though not entirely consistent. He does the province, and then inserts some kind of a shared something, Johnny McDonald is for everybody, Alexander Bell is for everybody, the wheat fields is for everybody, and the north, south, east, and west is for everybody. And then goes back to province, right? So that's a formation, that's a uniqueness in the writing style. So that's what that essay is about. Make an observation about some technique of his writing that he especially developed. Describe it in the first column, give proof of it in the second column, integrate it, and then explain in the third column what that proves of his style. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, here's something else I'm gonna do. You're writing in a document that you can all see. You can read what other people have written, although it's anonymous, so you don't necessarily know the authors. I'm gonna start going in and I'm gonna leave a thumbs up emoji in the bottom of boxes that have done it well, okay? You reading through all of these different sentences, not knowing how I would evaluate them or not, doesn't help. But if I can go through, and again, it's no slander on anybody because there's no names attached to this, I'm just gonna leave a thumbs up where it's a good example. Then when I give you time or you go back and scan through some of the writing, you can see, okay, this is similar to what I did, or I got a thumbs up too, yay, hoo, yeah, hoo, whatever. That sounded like Adam Sandler. Yeah, gabba gabba goo. Okay, don't delete the thumbs up.
it'll show up as like, yep, everyone can see it. So for example, this comment shows up here. I can go in and I can make suggestions here. And then what some of them do is they want to remove it so they can reject the suggestion after they've made the change. Here, it should be a capital C. So all they have to do is, for suggestions, they just click the check mark and it changes it for them. Yeah, so they're basically saying, for this one here, yeah, I made that suggestion and I did add a comment to it and they must have removed it and not erased it. Oh, that's fine. There. Okay.
Okay, that seemed like a really good activity. I'll go in and make sure that I get feedback in there. We'll start from there tomorrow and then you would move on to the paragraph writing, okay? Okay, good job.